The next key section of your setup process is daily rules. So daily rules is where we set the expected work rules or shift rules or start and finish times for an employee, depending on which way you look at it. It's also part of our rostering capability where we can set up expected work patterns based on a roster. So when we're setting up our daily rules, the key parts to this is that we would create a daily rule, we give it a name, that's relevant. Now, this could be a daily rule for a group of employees, or it could be a daily rule for a particular employee. It depends on your setup, and this is something that, again, your success team would go through with you to set up your rules for you. So we give it a name, which is the code. We give it a description. We have a number of options here. We'll address the normal working first, and then we'll do the other two second. So normal working is just a normal expected day. So what this means is that if we put an employee against this pattern, this is what sets the expectation, and if they don't meet that expectation, that's when we will see the exception flags, or if they don't work at all when there is an expectation that they should have worked, then again you'll get a missing exception to say that someone hasn't worked when they were expected to. We put in the hours threshold, so in this case we're saying from 8:30 till 4:30. You can also do split shifts if you wanted to, so for example I could also add another line where I said okay, from 2100 to 2300, if that's what I had. So you can have splits. You can also go past midnight, so I could say from 8:30, not that I would, but to 1 a.m., which means if the employee clocks out after midnight, that time will come back into the previous day, which is this is setting the expectation for a particular calendar day. I'll just put that back how it was. We have the overtime thresholds or the rate thresholds. So in this case, we're saying that everything is ordinary time. I'll show you an example in a second where we go through some steps. We have our anchoring functionality. So the anchoring is a little bit like rounding, except this works against the start and finish time only, not all clocks. So in this particular case, we're saying if the employee clocks within 29 minutes prior to 8:30, then we will anchor it to 8:30. So this is for the employee who, because of transport or other reasons, arrives at work early, clocks in, but you don't want to start paying them till the start of their shift. Now that can be as wide as you want. So you could say, okay, if it's 60 minutes before, I'm not going to pay them. Typically, we keep it around 29 minutes on the basis that if the employee is going to come in early because they've been asked to, it's going to be a logical amount of time, such as 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour. It's unlikely that you would ask the employee to come in to work 12 or 15 or 18 minutes early. We can do the same on the out time. So again, we can anchor the out time. So we can say your finish time, we're not going to pay you for 14 minutes after 5 o'clock. But if it's more than 14 minutes, we'll accept it. In both cases, we will accept it, but we will flag it as being an exception. The final part of the screen is the auto breaks. So we can say we're going to take a break at 12 o'clock for 30 minutes with a minimum of 30 minutes, which means if the employee happens to clock out at midday for their lunch break, then the system will take a minimum of 30 minutes if it's less. But if they don't clock at all, then the system will take a 30-minute break. You can also do a break at a time or after a time. So after a time means if we say after 6 hours worked, we're going to take a 30-minute break from the employee's clock time. So this is only if we are taking automatic breaks. If the employee is clocking their breaks, then you don't need to put that in. And in some cases, clients will have their employees clock their breaks every time they take an unpaid break. So this is not for paid breaks, it's only for unpaid breaks. In the next video, we'll cover off the other two types of daily rule.